everyone. Welcome to the Neutral Zone. I'm Jason Schwartz, your host. Many of you are looking at the screen and you say, wait, you're not in the studio. Sometimes I'm in the field and in the field of Maui, but we are expanding and we're going to start doing things over the net from a distance. And as I'm beginning that, I wanted to include things and people who have and still make an impression in my life. And one of them is a beautiful guest I have here. This is Sasha Yakovleva. Is that right?
Yes, thank you. You pronounce my last name correctly. That's wonderful.
You were a young girl that I met because my friend, your at the time husband, Thomas Fredrickson, was met a woman in New York, and that woman was you. So, beginning of your relationship up through, he was there as you guys were forming the breathing center. Tell us a little bit about what the Buteyko Breathing Center is and just a general overview. I could do it, but I know you can do it eloquently.
Yeah. So the Buteyko Breathing Center is a company, an organization, an online school where I and some other specialists teach people how to modify, how to change their automatic breathing patterns. So I mostly work with people who have some health issues. Sometimes it's asthma, COPD, sleep apnea, but also many others like high blood pressure, so many different problems. And I help them to change their automatic breathing patterns. And as a result of it, they're able to improve and often overcome their health conditions. Because every health issue is rooted in specific breathing patterns, and often they're not addressed.
Well, as I recall, Konstantin Buteyko got famous. That's how Tom would tell me that when the Chernobyl nuclear accident, that he went in and treated people there and with his wife, with Mila, and they didn't get a health challenge from it because they knew how to breathe, and that was a major, very huge thing, and kind of put them on the map, and the world took notice. Is that right? Is that a good story?
Well, it's a good story, that's for sure. I have an article about it on my website. But Konstantin Buteyko was a well-known, kind of a legendary Russian physiologist who made several very significant discoveries. And the first one was about breathing. But you are right, when the Chernobyl disaster took place, everyone was trying to escape those areas. Everyone was flying away from those areas. And Konstantin Buteyko and his wife Lyudmila were the only one who flew right to Chernobyl when it was still possible. And they were measuring people's breathing and also they were teaching them how to breathe less. And I know that it sounds strange, sounds counterintuitive, but it actually works very well. And by breathing less, people were able to prevent some serious side effects caused by radiation.
Now, when I think about it, I think every meditation teacher forever has always said, "Take a deep breath." What do you say?
I don't say that. I say,
You say,
breathe through your nose, in and out, breathe silently, and breathe in a way that your shoulders or your chest doesn't move because of breathing. And I also say, breathe through your mouth as often as you eat through your nose.
that is clear. So this is our breathing
Apparatus, yeah, exactly.
Do we breathe out? I mean, that's another practice I've seen. People
Mhm.
breathe in and breathe out through their mouth. Is that okay? Or
Well, people are becoming more and more aware of their breathing now, and more breathing techniques are becoming available. But what people usually don't understand is that there is a big difference between how we breathe on a regular basis and how we can breathe once in a while in order to accomplish a specific purpose. So I'll make an analogy, I'll use an analogy with food. Let's say that, a person typically eats salads and grains and maybe chicken, right? Something like that. And that's a pretty healthy, fine diet, right? But the same person once in a while would take hallucinogenic mushrooms in order to have, a really interesting or valuable experience. And that's fine too. However, there is a tremendous difference between what you can do once in a while and what you do daily. Like if the same person decides to eat mushrooms 3 times a day, every single day, inevitably they will be ill, right? And if that person decides to eat a salad in order to have a hallucinogenic experience, that's not going to work either. So there is a difference between what we do on regular basis and what we can do once in a while for a specific purpose. So Dr. Buteyko was concerned about how we are supposed to breathe as human beings, how we are supposed to breathe on regular basis in order to stay healthy. At the same time, in this world, there are so many different techniques, breathing techniques, which could be used once in a while for relaxation, for an adrenaline rush, for hallucinogenic experience, for many different purposes. But it's not the Buteyko method. The Buteyko method is concerned about health and well-being and what works for us physiologically in order to support our longevity.
you mentioned asthma. In my mind, I thought that what a perfect match was someone understands that if they can have awareness and control of their breath, their whole breathing pattern that may trigger an event can be avoided. And that's what you mean about your daily, if you have a pattern that you establish as your regular or breathing pattern that supports your health, it gives you a lot more freedom, of course, as well, to do all kinds of things in your life that you didn't think you could do anymore. It's like a rejuvenation and a strength that comes from even when you're not using that breathing. I imagine the lives of some of these people that couldn't breathe is now really getting a lot refreshed working.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned asthma. And of course, I often work with people who have asthma. And this method is actually known as, or often is called as natural asthma cure, because it's very effective for people who have any asthmatic symptoms, any breathing difficulties. And every person who has asthma lives in fear because they don't know when they will have difficulties breathing. So it
Yeah,
usually feels like living between life and death, because when they don't have breathing difficulties, they're completely fine. They don't even feel ill. But when breathing difficulties kick in, they feel like they could die at any moment and they have zero control over their breathing and over their lives. It's very, very difficult to live in this state for a long time. So the Buteyko method changes it because it helps people to understand why their breathing behaves in a certain way, and also it helps them to start seeing their breathing as an ally versus an enemy. And eventually their breathing becomes their health coach and even their guru. And when people are able to understand the language of their breath, they can follow the guidance of the breath. And this path always takes them to better health, to better life, to better well-being.
Well, that was very well explained. You've done this a few times. Yeah, I get it. As I was doing, I was thinking, I just spoke to someone yesterday who said their son, who has, I guess, all his life has had adult ADD, and he's 28, still being watched by his dad, had an episode, and they haven't had an episode in a year. So once again, it makes me think about an everyday breathing pattern with someone like yourself to help establish a pattern that's daily used to help someone like that avoid a breathing pattern that brings on events.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, my website is a little bit like an encyclopedia, to be honest with you. So sometimes I will refer to it. There is an article.
It'll be on screen. What is it now?
It's breathingcenter.com.
Oh, great.
Breathingcenter.com, yeah. So there is an article which is called "Is Attention Deficit Disorder of Your Child a Breathing Problem?" Because almost every child who has attention deficit disorder has some breathing problems, but often they're not noticed by their parents. So children like that always breathe through the mouth a lot, and that actually makes their condition much more acute, much stronger. So normal.
Is this a long process? I've done it. I don't know. I know you have different kinds of packages, group things, probably, and individual, right?
Yes. I mostly work online with people all over the world, adults and children, helping them to normalize their breathing. But also, I see people in person in Creston, Colorado, where I live. I have all kind of online groups and video courses and so on. So if people visit my website, breathingcenter.com, and click on Learn Buteyko, they will see all kind of products and services.
I can hardly imagine. It's still foggy because over the years I remember when you moved to Creston, and I remember, I remember the whole thing, and I'm so thrilled that you're still here. There was a recent walk for peace, and it was happening across the country. I thought, oh, that's Sasha's people. Those are the guys from Woodstock. But is that the same group?
No, it's so I practice Tibetan Buddhism. That's why I think you associate Buddhist monks with me to a degree. But no, it was a totally different group. It was a different lineage of Buddhism. I think it was Vietnamese Buddhism. And I did write an article about breathing of those monks who walked for peace every single day between 8 and 10 hours for, I think, 108 days. It's amazing.
It is amazing. What's also amazing is that I would never in my life have experienced Tibetan Buddhism except my friend Tom needed a friend, and I hadn't been off, forever. And I went to New York, and up there to Delhi and that whole situation. But the time I spent there with Kempo Karthar Rinpoche and Lama Lodro and did
Mm-hmm.
the interview of Lama, it's up on our website, you'll see it there,
Oh, wow, interesting.
was really wonderful. And I've never ever lost that special, deep appreciation and feeling. And as our world is growing and I see different groups. When you don't understand, many people are afraid and distant. But once they do, all the walls come down and the love comes out, and we see how we are all so we're all children of the same God. I know you're doing Breathing Center. What else have you been doing? Have you gone to different conferences and taught different doctors? I would think you'd be great for a TED talk.
You mean what I do have been doing regarding breathing? That's what you're
All these
asking?
years. I'm just going in general. I haven't seen you in so long. I see that, you know, when you tell me that you're in your early 60s, like that's a long time. So you were a much younger woman when I knew you. I never even thought about all that, but here we are. I'm starting to get old, but you're still young. 60-year-old girl is young to an old guy like me, right?
Right.
So how old was Tom? Was he like me? Was he older like me?
Um, I think I was 52. Oh, sorry, 42, and he was 52 when we met. About, yeah.
And he passed away what year? Do you remember?
He passed, I don't remember the exact year, but he passed away. He passed 10 years later after that. And when we met, when he and I met, you probably remember that the story was very dramatic because he had asthma and his asthma became very acute. And for a while, doctors thought that he would die from asthma. And even
I
though
almost thought that's how you found all this breathing was try to
that's exactly,
work
yeah,
and help your
yeah,
husband.
yeah, exactly. That's how it all happened out of
So
total desperation. And the Buteyko method definitely gave him 10 more years of life. But because he had cancer and some other problems in addition to asthma, he eventually died. But
well,
yeah,
what
it
a
helped
great
him
gift to the
tremendously.
world. So in so many ways, I remember when you've written now a couple of books, I know, and
Mhm.
you have, like you say, you have probably tape series and things that when people go to Breathing Center, they're going to be introduced to a whole world that I hope they'll embrace.
Mhm.
And I hope to go up there and look more again and start embracing. So,
Well, it's good for everyone. Just like healthy food is good for everyone, not just for people who have a specific disease, right? In
right,
fact,
prevention is the key,
exactly,
right?
exactly. But compared to food, the impact of breathing on our bodies and minds is much, much stronger. And the proof for it is that we can survive without food for about a month. We can survive without water for about a week. And we can survive without air only for a few minutes. So even though most people think that food affects their health more than anything, it's not really true. Breathing affects health much more than food, and water actually affects our health more than what we eat. But among those three substances we take in, definitely the air or how we breathe is the most impactful. In fact, Dr. Buteyko compared breathing with nuclear power. And he said Don't be casual about breathing techniques. You really need to know what you are doing. Playing with breathing is like playing with nuclear power. So if you don't know what to do with your breathing, it's better not to do anything. But if you know how to control, how to manipulate your breathing in a positive way, it could become truly very powerful.
Superpower.
It is, yeah, totally.
Yeah. The way to live your life with the best chance to live a more full life, right?
And just simply be healthy.
No. Well, what things that, I'm talking here, what things are important that we don't miss, that you really like to be sure that we get the audience to know? Because I'm hoping all our viewers will reach out to Breathing Center and more than see what's going on. Crazy. Any things that I'm not covering that are important?
Well, I think that the most important thing for people is to know just basic foundational elements of healthy breathing. It's so simple, it's unbelievable. And yet people don't know it. And some people can't apply it also because it's easy to understand it, but for some people it's difficult to apply it. So the first step is always just to notice your own breathing or breathing of your child and evaluate, do I breathe through my nose all the time or not? When I ask people, do you breathe through your nose? Most people say, of course. But then I ask them more specific questions like, do you breathe through your nose at night? And most people say, oh, I don't know, but I snore a lot. Well, when a person snores, they usually don't breathe through the nose. Then I say, well, do you breathe through your nose when you exercise? And people say, of course not. Well, you need to breathe through your nose in and out when you exercise. Do you inhale through your nose when you talk? Most people don't even think it's possible. But if they don't, that means they're practicing mouth breathing. And mouth breathing comes with a loss of carbon dioxide in the lungs, which most likely is what people call prana or chi, or perhaps breath of life in Hawaii. It's our vital energy, and our health depends on it. When the level of carbon dioxide in the lungs is low, we are ill. Not necessarily with asthma, it could be all kind of health issues, but we are not healthy. And when that level is high or normal, we are healthy, we feel good.
It's
So
interesting that in a hospital,
Mhm.
I see them measure oxygen level, but I haven't seen them measure carbon dioxide level, but also
Doctors measure carbon dioxide level in the blood sometimes when they, suspect a problem. But the Buteyko method is concerned about the level of carbon dioxide in the lungs, which typically is called, or was called now less and less, but typically was called a waste gas. But nothing is really wasted in this, on this planet, in this universe, in this life.
carbon dioxide is as important as any.
No, it's actually more important in a way, because when the level of carbon dioxide in the lungs becomes zero, we die. That's how important it is.
Yeah. And oxygen probably similar, but yeah.
And so what most I want to clarify something which is quite important. Okay. So most people believe that the more they breathe, the more oxygen they will have. But this assumption is actually incorrect, because even if our blood or a person's blood is full of oxygen, in order for hemoglobin to release this oxygen to various organs, a sufficient level of carbon dioxide in the lungs is required, because the level of carbon dioxide in the lungs regulates the release of oxygen. That's why people who breathe through the mouth, including children, often suffer from oxygen deprivation, even though, they might live on Maui and, where the air is full of oxygen and food is great and there are wonderful fruits and vegetables and all of that, and people are physically active. But still, if the level of carbon dioxide in the lungs is low, normally people don't receive enough oxygen. And Jason, you probably remember that I used to work with Ram Dass. I think you interviewed him, right? So that was his problem.
Right. Well, I remember when Tom came out here and they had Ariel has a goddaughter who worked with us. But that thing that you taught him, like as a super foundation, I know how it extended his life.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, and remember he was when you were videotaping him, he was making a joke and saying, and Sasha always told me, Ramdas, close your mouth. Ramdas, close your mouth. Remember that? Yeah, it's still on my website. But he was a typical example of a person who lived, close to the ocean, had a very healthy lifestyle, and yet his health was poor because he was constantly or quite often breathing through his mouth, and he wasn't aware of detrimental effects on his health. So even though he was an incredibly knowledgeable person, it still was revolutionary for him to find out about the Buteyko method and find out about healthy breathing and carbon dioxide in the lungs.
People say to me, you have so many different things. What are your shows about? And I say, they're about a lot of things because it all fits together. You are such, and again, I'm just expressing it so you recognize, I recognize. You're so important in the mix. Everyone's doing everything. Their ability to have good health that's under their control is a wonderful, wonderful gift to all of our audience. I hope that they will, you guys out there, check out the Breathing Center and check out what Sasha's doing. And of course, as we go along, Sasha, will you come back and visit again in time?
I hope so. It would be nice to see you in person and give you a big hug.
That too. If I come to Crestone, but the chances are you'll probably likely come to Maui before I might go to Crestone. We'll see. I have a friend in Kalispell, Montana, who has a green waste to energy project there. So I could make it there, but again, there I hope to bring it here and have it all here. And love to have you in anything I'm doing. I want you to be part of it as much as you'd like.
Thank you.
My love and aloha, thank you for doing this show here with me. I always want to honor my friend Tom because he really brought me closer. Again, I had a situation, I'm Jewish, and this last weekend I went to a 3.5 hour Saturday. It's called Rosh Chodesh, which is the head of the month. There was a Saturday prayer thing with the Chabad Jews. And I, very uncomfortable being around people that only speak another language. They speak English, but they're speaking their language, and I was uncomfortable. But to be there, to see what they were doing, and to see the farm and the kosher farm and the way they live, it was so rewarding. And I think that when I think about people knowing what a Russian is, and a Ukrainian, and a Mexican, and a Frenchman, we all are people. And look at these things we have in common. We all breathe. We all need to know how to, and then we find there's abundance of air, abundance of food. We can cooperate. So my bigger picture is always, I sound a little airy. They call it airy fairy. You know, I'm a little bit outside of the conventional lines, but not really. I just want to bring more goodness into the world through the people that I share. You've been a wonderful guest. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason, and it's always wonderful to see you. And aloha.
Aloha.
Bye now.